Hey, my name is Kate Melody, and I'll be making this rebuttal video in response to mainly Cassandra's video, who side with the stance that the U.S. should not be involved militarily in the Middle East. Now, Cassandra made some great points about why we should end our involvement, mainly how the U.S. may not gain anything from being involved in the Middle East. But have you considered that the Middle Eastern governments have lost control of subduing the terrorist groups? This is mainly talking about ISIS, and as long as ISIS is still gaining power each year, they'll cause more destruction to not only multiple regions in the Middle East, but also throughout the world. This is basically including the United States, European countries, and maybe even South America. So I do agree with Cassandra that the military involvement should not be the first method to help the Middle East, especially concerning with ISIS. But we should use diplomatic means first. But the Middle Eastern governments are not allowing the U.S. and our own allies' governments to give them tactics on how to deal with this issue. And these governments want to resolve the issue themselves, but if they cannot resolve it, then there would only be more violence and destruction due to the terrorist groups, and there'll be loss of innocent lives as well, to not only Middle Eastern governments, but across the globe due to the attacks that can occur at any moment. Unfortunately, military intervention will be beneficial in this scenario because the longer ISIS remains as a terrorist superpower, the longer it will take to defeat them, and this will result in more acts of violence committed by these terrorist groups. So by being involved sooner rather than later, it'll hopefully end the war of terrorism in the Middle East, and as a result, decrease the number of terrorist attacks across the globe, so we don't have to have repeats like the Boston Marathon bombing, or the 2018 Paris knife attacks, or the 2017 Manchester Arena bombing that occurred at the end of the Ariana Grande concert. I don't believe that the U.S. is not trying to rule the Middle East in any way. We only see that the Middle East is in trouble and that the people in charge of this country are not doing as much as they should to stop the spread of terrorism. Obviously, there are many citizens inside the Middle East that do not want military involvement at all, but there are many others who do, just because the U.S. is known to be able to attack these terrorist groups and be able to vanquish them. But when it comes to the topic of terrorism, I do not believe that it is up to the country of where the terrorist group resides to resolve the issue themselves. They should seek outside help because the spread of terrorism may occur in one country, but it can easily spread to multiple countries over time. And by using other means of other countries' military involvement or diplomatic involvement, it'd be more efficient in eliminating the threat of terrorism. A terrorist group normally does not commit their acts of violence in only their states. They commit acts of violence across the globe, and once another country is attacked, they are now a part of the team to stop this group. ISIS has grown significantly over the past 6 years, and they will only continue to grow with power, which is why I believe that the U.S. should be involved militarily in the Middle East as long as there is a threat of ISIS. While Cassandra did make some great and valid points for why the U.S. should end their involvement in the Middle East, I just personally believe that the involvement should only end once the reign of ISIS does, due to the threat it poses to not just the U.S. but to to the U.S. allies and to other nations as well.